What's up, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Fantasy Fellowshow. My name is Kyle. Tonight, Saturday, December 18th, we have a game kicking off in about an hour and 20 minutes. The Indianapolis Colts are hosting the New England Patriots. So we're going to hang out tonight. I'm going to go over some of the news that came out today. Of course, there's going to be probably COVID news the rest of the season. Pretty much every day we'll have some stuff going on. So for the beginning of the show, we'll just kind of look at some of the news. We'll say what up to whoever enters in the chat room. Get your questions fired in there, and I'll see what I can do for you guys. But I hope you're having a great Saturday evening. We're looking at a bunch of inactives and actives for the Colts tonight. Nothing too crazy here. It looks like it's going to be pretty much everybody that we thought we would see for fantasy. Of course, no Damien Harris. So I'm going to probably recommend Ramondre Stevenson as a top. He's like a fringe running back one in this game. Again, we saw how much the Patriots ran the ball last week in that weather against Buffalo. And I just think like Ramondre is going to get the carries. He's going to probably flirt with almost 20 plus touches. Good chance of him getting a rushing touchdown as well. So if you guys are in a debate with Ramondre Stevenson versus another running back, I think my answer tonight might be probably go with Ramondre. So Christians, is J.D. McKissic playing with the game pushed back to Tuesday? I'm still not sure because even though he is back with the team, they're still holding him out with a neck injury. So even though he has cleared concussion protocol, they're listing him with a neck injury. And let me just double check the practice reports from today. I believe he was an official DNP today. So on Saturday here, still no J.D. McKissic. So I think if you're banking on McKissic being available for Tuesday, that's a gamble. I don't know if we're going to see him play. Again, he hasn't practiced all week. Even though he has cleared concussion protocols, they're listing him as do not practice with a neck injury. So I'm going to say probably not. It might make sense for them to wait and hold out and see if he can play week 16. So it's going to probably be another heavy McKissic game. And one, we don't even really know who that quarterback is going to be in Washington. I don't know if it's going to be Heineke. I don't know if it's going to be who's the backup there. Kyle Allen. They did express some optimism that it might be Kyle Allen. So we'll see. But for the most part right now, there's a lot of questions. And I know for some of my lineups, like I'm going to be starting guys that play on Sunday that don't have any injury or COVID-19 tags. I just want to be safe because if say you're banking on a guy like Antonio Gibson, and what if he tests positive tomorrow morning or Monday morning or something like that? I think for me, I'm trying to get my points locked in on Sunday, and we'll go from there. But anyway, some of the major news and things that came out today, the Rams activated Odell Beckham and Daryl Henderson both off the COVID list. I know we're probably going to want to get Odell Beckham in our lineups. I'm not sure about Daryl Henderson. We know he's been kind of behind the last two games from Sony Michel being kind of the lead back while he's out. So for me, I'm not super excited to get Henderson into my lineups. I think it's kind of a wait and see approach there. With JD not officially back, is Antonio Gibson worth a start? I like Antonio Gibson on just from the matchup standpoint. The Eagles, they allow the 10th most PPR points to the running back position. So they've allowed 10 touchdowns in 13 games, almost 100 yards per game on the ground to running backs. I think it is a good game for Antonio Gibson. It's just we're nervous, man, like with the fumbles and Ron Rivera sometimes kind of just unwarranted, like even though he fumbles, like he shouldn't be benching him for the rest of the game in a game like last week. So I'm slightly nervous about Gibson. And then here we go. We have Dylan, Gaskin, and Javonte. So in this case, I think, I mean, from a points allowed perspective here, the Jets allow the most running back points by far. Like it's not even close. They've allowed 23 touchdowns to running backs in just 13 games. So for me, like Gaskin's kind of the guy that's like going off in my head as that's the must start here. I know it still feels kind of weird to expect like a top 10 day from Myles Gaskin, but the matchup is super, super nice on paper. And then with Javonte, I think we're still waiting to see. Let me see if Melvin Gordon got any work in today. So he's been limited all week. They haven't updated any Saturday reports here. So we still don't know if Melvin Gordon's not going to play or not. What time does that game tip off? Let me see. And yeah, the Gaskin committee thing does make me hesitate a little. But I just want to see real quick. I'm opening up the NFL schedule for tomorrow. So the Broncos, they do not play until the late games. Miami plays the early game. So with Gaskin, first of all, he's just coming back from the COVID, so I think that could be some concern as well. He might, have to get his conditioning underneath him. And then Javonte versus Melvin, like we know Javonte and Melvin are going to split the ball if Melvin plays. Again, Melvin's been limited all week. It sounds like he's going to play, but I think you could be fine. So here's what I'll say. We'll skip Myles Gaskin. Again, we don't really trust the Jets that much. It is a really good matchup, but if they're splitting, the committee into 3 or 4 or whatever they're going to do, that makes it a little bit riskier. So then you can pivot to looking at Javonte Williams. And if say Melvin Gordon doesn't play, I'll just say it's simple. Start Javonte Williams. You're fine. If we see Melvin Gordon in there, that makes me a little less excited to get Javonte in there. So maybe we just wait for Gibson. We know everything's going to kind of align for Gibson, especially if J.D. McKissic doesn't play, and then you do have the opportunity to cash in on that Eagles matchup where they're top 10 rushing attack, where you can expect Gibson to be involved, and hopefully they include him in the passing game a little bit more in this one. So for me, I'm going to wait for Javonte and see what's up with Melvin Gordon. If Melvin's out, I'll go with Javonte. Otherwise, I'm cool with holding on to Gibson. And then as far as AJ Dillon, I think AJ Dillon's like a safe, he's a safe floor. But at that point, it depends. Do you want the 7 to 10, safe points, or would you rather go for a potential big game from Gibson? Is Saquon even a must start over the names I listed? Yeah, I'm still probably going to start Saquon. I know the Cowboys have a tougher defense at the moment right now, but I just think with Saquon's involvement in the passing game, I mean, Mike Glennon likes to target his running backs. He's shown that, the last couple of weeks here. So I still think, assuming this is full PPR, Saquon's probably one of the safest starts you can get this weekend. And if the Giants somehow manage to get into the red zone, you can probably have a good idea that Saquon might be the scorer for that game. And it's a home game for the Giants, so that could be a little bit different too. But I still think I'm starting Saquon over all these guys mentioned. But I think Javonte might be the best play for you. And then if again no Melvin, maybe just lock Javonte in. Stevenson or Jeff Wilson Jr. Well, thanks for hanging out, Harris. I think you got to go Ramondre Stevenson. He's going to be logging probably 20 plus carries tonight. I can see him just being a boss. The Colts, I don't know what's up with the Colts defense. They're not playing that well as a unit right now. They are a little bit stiffer against the run, but I just think Ramondre, you're going to lock in 20 some touches for Ramondre Stevenson. So that's what I'll go with. Status on MVS. Let me see here. He got limited practices in, I believe, all week. They're listing him with a back injury, so I don't really know if I can trust him going into this game. I think between the two, I'd almost rather use Allen Lazard if you're looking for a Packers player in this one. And it's a good call because the Ravens secondary, that's exploitable. They're not healthy. We know Marlon Humphrey's not playing, and they have been giving up a lot of fantasy points to the wide receiver position. And actually, against the quarterback, the Ravens are allowing the 9th most quarterback points here. So it's a good matchup for Rodgers. So if we do see MVS is playing, I feel good about him having a nice deep ball or two. He did get targeted in the end zone last week, so he could have had a bigger day. But that was kind of his floor. So he's a bit boom bust with that, no touchdown risk. But I still like the Packers passing attack. Would you bench Gibson this week for either Stevenson, Montgomery, or Sanders? I think at this point, Stevenson's going to be the guy that I'm going to pivot to in a lot of these questions. Because Gibson plays on Tuesday night. We don't know how many more COVID-19s they're going to get on their team. We could wake up tomorrow or Monday and see, some other things, or you potentially risk having Gibson himself put on the COVID list. So I think for me, I'm probably just going to lock in Stevenson. He's the guy that I want to play in this one. The other guy that I would probably put second would be Montgomery, but I think the matchup for Stevenson tonight, for him to get the volume, it feels pretty good for Stevenson, and he's got probably the best chance for a touchdown out of all of these players here. Yeah, I like Lazard a lot. This upcoming game, I wonder if I should put him at flex over Gibson. Okay. So that's a good call. I think that, the odds for them to get a touchdown are pretty much equal at this point. And again, no Randall Cobb, and potentially MVS is limited right now. So that's actually making me push towards Lazard almost being the better play here, especially if he's going up against the second corner there. We know he's going to be on the field a lot. I think last week he played the most snaps in a game he's played all year. So Lazard is a trendy play right now. So it's kind of like a coin flip at this point. I think with Gibson, you're at least hoping he gets the ball. It's probably a better play if no J.D. McKissic. But again, for me to wait till Tuesday, that's where I get a little bit nervous about this. And if we wake up tomorrow and we see MVS is not going to go, that's going to push me towards our man here, Alan Lazard. So I think I'm going to lean with you and say Lazard. But if you just want to lock in the safe points, Gibson is the safer player. So I don't know. That's a tough call. I've been frustrated with Gibson the last few games. Or would you flex Montgomery, Gibson, Sanders, Brandon Cooks, or Adam Thielen? I'm uncomfortable gambling on Thielen if he's going to play or not. The best player here, the safest player, does look like David Montgomery. I do like Brandon Cooks as a high volume play. And I know Harris plays mostly in standard league. So from a yardage standpoint, you can probably bank on 70 to 80 yards from Brandon Cooks. So he might be the safest play, but as far as running backs go, I think I'm pretty good with David Montgomery against Minnesota. We just saw Najee Harris. The Steelers can't run the ball well, and they were able to get Najee Harris, I think, almost 200 rushing yards last week. So I think I'm going to say Montgomery. That attack with Justin Fields, and even Justin Fields was able to pass the ball to Montgomery here. So I think I'm going to flex David Montgomery. Jeff Wilson Jr., Darnell Mooney, Devontae Parker. I'm gonna go with Devontae Parker. I like Darnell Mooney the least of this group. I know Allen Robinson's not going to play here, but we haven't seen Darnell Mooney was clicking with Andy Dalton. We have yet to see him click with Justin Fields the past 2 games here. So I'm leaning towards Devontae Parker probably being a top 20, top 25 wide receiver this week. Again, no Jalen Waddle. Knock on wood right now. We'll see. I think he does have a chance to play, but who knows? So I think I'm going to say Devontae Parker is the guy here that I want in my lineup. He should be the leading target man for Tua, very vulnerable Jets defense. Do you like the Vikings versus Bears, Broncos versus Bengals, or Jags versus Houston defense? Jacksonville is going to be an interesting game to watch tomorrow. If you guys remember the first game of the year, Jacksonville let us down. Everyone thought Houston was going to be the bum of the league. But it turns out Jacksonville was made to look pretty silly in that one. So Vikings versus the Bears. They're kind of like a fringe top 10 defense this week. Broncos versus the Bengals. Like a standpoint here, I'm more scared about the Bengals offense than I am the Bears offense. And I believe the Broncos are at home, whereas the Vikings are on the road at Chicago. So I don't know if I trust that one as much. Jags versus Houston, I struggle with that one. It's fantasy playoffs. I think I'm a little bit nervous to start the Jags defense. So I think the safe call is probably the Broncos. For them to get, the thing with Joe Burrow too is he gets sacked a lot. The Broncos defense has been playing well. Again, it's a game in Denver. I think I'm liking Denver the most. The first game, yeah, Tyrod was playing, but Davis Mills can still move. Like Mills can throw the ball. I think he led the league in passing yards last week. So he can still move the ball. I think just from a defensive standpoint, though, I trust Denver more as a sound unit. It's at home. Jacksonville is hosting Houston, but you're banking on some turnovers and stuff. So perhaps, I guess, if you're feeling the gamble with Jags, I can see it being a good game. But I'm just going to trust the process with the Broncos here. Chase Edmunds or David Johnson. Even if James Conner plays, I think you want to go with Chase Edmunds. I don't really, again, fantasy playoffs, I find it really hard to trust myself starting these Jags and these Houston players. Some of these players on teams that just are not going anywhere in the playoffs, I get a little nervous about it. So I'm going to roll with Chase Edmunds. It's a plus matchup against Detroit. And Detroit, like themselves, like they have not been good against running backs at all. They actually allow the 4th most points to the running back position. They've allowed 22 touchdowns. So I think Edmunds is probably the guy that I want to see here. They're going to look to get him back into the offense. So he should have a couple big plays or two. Is Brady a lock over Taysom? I think so. I really think so. Even though Tom Brady, like they lost that game to the Saints like a month ago, he still threw for, I think, over 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. Maybe it was 350 yards and 4 touchdowns. He did have a couple interceptions, but I just think Tampa Bay, Tom Brady, I feel good for him to move the ball. The Saints are a better team stopping the run than they are the pass, so that favors Tom Brady even more. Whereas with Taysom Hill, it doesn't feel good. He somehow finds a way to get 20 fantasy points, but it's a little bit risky. So I'm going to go with Tom Brady. I'm going Dawson Knox all day here. It's a good matchup for Dawson Knox. He's a touchdown guy. Foster Moreau, he's let us down the last 2 weeks here. I'm not really feeling a lot of confidence from the Raiders offense. And I just think Knox going up against, who do they play? Who does Dawson Knox play? Carolina. Carolina is one of those teams that they're looking forward to what they're doing in the offseason. So I'm going to go with Dawson Knox. He's got a safe floor, heavily involved in that passing offense as well. Overall, the Rams got back all their so I think so. Like Higbee's back, Odell's back, and so is Daryl Henderson. So that offense is looking good to go. If you're nervous, if you have Matt Stafford, you shouldn't be nervous at all here. So it's looking good for Cooper Kupp, Van Jefferson, Odell Beckham. I don't know if I'd start Tyler Higbee in this one. They do have a good matchup for Higbee this week, but I don't know if I'm feeling it. He's kind of, since Odell Beckham showed up, Higbee's just been kind of off the radar as a startable tight end. And then again with Daryl Henderson, I can't responsibly advise Daryl Henderson to be in our fantasy lineups. Like he's coming off a quad injury, returning from COVID, and Sony Michel has been the lead back and looked good the last 2 games here. So I'm thinking you're probably looking at like a true 50-50 split, almost even still leaning towards Sony Michel's side. So I think I pause on Henderson, but everything else looks really good for the Rams. So continue to fire those guys up. What do you guys think for tonight's game? Patriots at Colts, or the Colts are favored to win in this game by 1.5 points. I'm seeing an over under of about 46. So if I divide that by 2, they're putting this game at about roughly 24.5 to 22, 23. So it's a fun game tonight. I think we're going to see a lot of running. It's Ramondre versus Jonathan Taylor for me tonight. Pick one group, half PPR. Sony Michel and Van Jefferson and Josh Jacobs, or Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Stevenson and James Robinson. Sony Michel, Jefferson, and Josh Jacobs, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Van Jefferson, or James Robinson. I think I'm going to go with St. Brown, Stevenson, and James Robinson. I feel better. I'd rather have Stevenson and James Robinson than Michel and Jacobs. And I think for receivers, they kind of wash each other out, Van Jefferson and St. Brown. St. Brown's going to be busy with targets. He's going to see a lot of volume, and he still has that opportunity for some big plays downfield with Goff. So I think it's close, but it's super close. If Daryl Henderson doesn't play, I think it's almost even. But with Henderson potentially coming back, that's going to limit Sony's upside. So I'm going to take the team with the better backs there, Stevenson and J-Rob. And yeah, JT is insane, man. He's had a touchdown in like 10 straight games. He's going to be pushing a lot of people to the next round of the fantasy playoffs. And yeah, I like the Colts. So I like the Colts offense more than the Patriots, but I like the Patriots defense a lot. So if they can, I guess the trouble is if they can get pressure on Wentz, force some turnovers, and they need to limit the big plays in the passing game, whether that's from TY or Pittman or some of the tight ends that they have there. So I think if they can JT's going to do what he does, but they can't have Carson Wentz, finding some of these crazy receivers that the Colts have for deep plays. So I think it's going to be a fun game. I think I'm going to lean with the Patriots. I think just their time management and Mac Jones can make some crucial plays in crunch time. Michael Gallup or Jerry Jeudy. My man Harris, this is a classic question of which quarterback do I want to be attached to? Do I want to be attached to Dak Prescott or Teddy Bridgewater? Give me Dak Prescott, Michael Gallup. Gallup's been a pretty strong play since he came back. I think his first game back, he was a little weak in fantasy points, but the last 4 games, he's seen an average of 9 targets per game. He's highly involved in that passing offense right now, and he might actually be one of Dak's best targets. So I say Michael Gallup. Hope you guys, Justin, my man, what's going on? Hope you're having a good evening. Score prediction for tonight. Let's see. I'm going to spot Jonathan Taylor a touchdown. I'm going to spot Ramondre Stevenson a touchdown. So that puts us at 7-7. One of the Patriots receivers will score a touchdown, whether that's Bourne, Aguilar, maybe N'Keal Harry, or maybe one of the tight ends. So I'm gonna give the Patriots 2 touchdowns for sure out of the gate. The Colts, Carson Wentz is going to throw one or run one. He's going to get a touchdown. So we're even up at 2 touchdowns. I think it's going to come down to who doesn't miss their field goals. and ultimately who gets that third touchdown. But I think Pittman Jr. is going to have a good day. I've been telling a lot of people to play him. I hope he has a good game. So I'll go Colts 24-20. Colts 24-20. Stevenson, Gibson, Zeke, Javonte start too. Oh, Stevenson, my man. Stevenson's going to be a good play tonight. I have a feeling here. Most of the websites that I subscribe to for projections have listed Stevenson as a top 10 back. So I think for this question, and again, before you got in, Justin, we were talking about I'm nervous for teams that play on Tuesday. Like they could still have a crazy COVID test or something on Monday or Sunday. So for me, I think I'm all about locking in my points this week. The chances Ramondre Stevenson gets the ball 20 times tonight feels pretty good. And if anyone's going to score for that team, it's going to be Ramondre Stevenson. So I think he's the guy that I'm starting for sure. What time's that Dallas Cowboys game at? Let me look real quick. I like Gibson, but I don't think I like Gibson more than Zeke or Javonte. And we know Melvin Gordon's been limited all week. Okay, Dallas plays early. So I'll say this. If Tony Pollard's inactive, I'll go with Zeke. They're still going to use Corey Clement as the halfback, but the chance that Ezekiel Elliott scores a touchdown, pretty good. So I'm going to rank them Stevenson, Zeke, Javonte, and then Gibson. Everett or Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry's too boom bust for me. I think with Lockett and Metcalf both kind of questionable right now, I'm probably going to say Gerald Everett in full PPR. Any underdog for tomorrow? Let me look at this real quick. Underdogs for tomorrow? Interesting. The Titans are picked to lose by 1. So technically they're an underdog. I'm going to take the Tennessee Titans at the Steelers. The Jags hosting the Texans. I don't know. Something tells me that I'm going to go with the Texans as an underdog here. The Falcons 49ers. That one, it's weird. The 49ers are favored to win by 8.5, but I kind of like Atlanta right now. Atlanta's offense is coming alive. They're getting more players involved. San Fran defense is banged up a little bit. San Fran had almost no business winning that game last week in Cincinnati, but they just kind of let it go against them. So I kind of like Atlanta to win on the road here as 8.5 point underdogs, and then I'll take the Bengals as underdogs at Denver. That game's probably gonna be a low scoring game though. Michael Gallup or Alan Lazard. Harris, I'm gonna. So that's a good one because you got Dak and you got A-Rod. But I'm gonna go with the guy that I know is gonna get targets. That's gonna be Michael Gallup. He's been pretty stable the last few weeks. Any chance the Seahawks can contain Cooper Kupp? I hope so because I have to worry about Cooper Kupp in the playoffs this weekend. So Cooper Kupp, let me look and see. They played Seattle earlier this year. It went 7 for 92, no touchdowns. So they could potentially hold. Like if they can hold him out for a touchdown, you're looking at a pretty good quiet night from Cooper Kupp. He's still gonna reach 7-8 catches, I think, here. So if you're playing in full PPR, you got to expect those points. But I like the matchup here. I can't see him going hog wild here like he's been the last couple games. So there's a chance the Seahawks are playing good football the last couple games. So hopefully they can contain them. Terry, Hollywood, or Gibson? So I watched the Ravens game. Tyler Huntley could not hit Marquise on a deep ball last week. The shots were there. He took I think 2, maybe 3 deep shots at Marquise Brown, but he couldn't come up with them. So I'm nervous about that. The Packers defense is playing good football right now. I do think the Ravens are going to be playing from behind most of that game. So Hollywood does have a high floor. But if you're nervous about Hollywood, we'll kick this one down the road. It's good that you have Terry or Gibson both on the same team here. So we could make that decision later on Tuesday night. If you want to defer to Tuesday, I think depending on who the quarterback is, I'll say Gibson's a better play than Terry. But it's up to you. If you want to risk Hollywood Brown, I'm cool with it. I'm starting Hollywood Brown in a league or two. But again, I think the Ravens are going to be throwing the ball a lot more than we anticipate tomorrow with that Packers game in town. Do you think Waller is back next week? I think a lot of it depends on what they do this week. If they beat the Browns, there's a better chance that he rests again because the need's not there for him to be in the lineup. So it's 50-50 at this point. I don't really know too much information. I think expecting him back. We just need to see him practice, and it's weird because now that they play on Monday, I believe, right? So we're not going to know until about Wednesday if he's ready to go. So it's still hard to say 50-50 at the moment. Yep, Gallup's playing good ball. Do I play Tua over Matt Stafford? My opponent already had Travis Kelce go. What did Stafford do to the Rams or to the Saints back then? Or to the Seahawks, my bad. Stafford at Seattle, week 5. He threw for 365 yards and a passing touchdown, so he should be fine. I think I'm fine with going Stafford at home against Seattle. I like the matchup for Tua, but that game, it could go either way. Sometimes they run sometimes they run it in from the goal line with the running back. So I think I'm going to just continue to use Stafford. He's the safe play. Coming back, what is Connor's role going to be? Connor's role is really not going to change. I think the only thing that you're going to see from Connor is less work in the passing game, even though he's shown to be really effective back that way. So I still think I'm going to rank Connor as a fringe running back 1. Edmunds, they're just going to ease Edmunds back in. I think in this one, you're not going to see him touch the ball probably like 15, 20 times. But you're looking at Connor, still a safe touchdown play. And it kind of just goes back to what it was earlier in the season. Let me look up some numbers real quick from the Cardinals running backs. James Conner. So Conner, like back in week 4 when they beat the Rams, Conner had 18 carries and 2 touchdowns, 2 catches. So he still had 20 touches. And then for Chase Edmunds in that game against the Rams, Edmunds still had 12 carries and ran for 120 yards and caught 4 balls. So I think the plan, if everyone's healthy and running, there's room for both running backs to eat. And then the touchdown guy obviously is going to be James Conner. So he's still the better play in my book. And yeah, Lamar, I don't think Lamar's going to play. I think they're going to just take it easy. I really don't think the Ravens expect to win this game tomorrow, but we'll see. Brandon Ayuk or Devontae Parker. So now I guess I get, if you're asking about Tua and you have Parker, that might be kind of fun to stack them. I'm still going to say Brandon Ayuk. I'm going to go with Brandon Ayuk in this one. Ayuk's been pretty good. He's playing good football the last month, and now that he's catching touchdowns, he's actually as far as a receiver, he's a better receiver than Deebo Samuel right now. Deebo's getting all the running back points, but I still like Ayuk as a pass catcher, and he's just safe and reliable right now. So I feel good about Ayuk being involved in the offense. His last few games here, let me look at his game logs real quick. Let's see here, 62 yards, 55 yards, 91 yards, 85 yards. His last 4 games he's been involved. He's seen 6 targets in all those 4 games. He's starting to get some rushing attempts here. He's got 2 touchdowns during that span. So I feel good about Ayuk, and he's on the field a lot. So Ayuk, I think, is the guy for you this weekend. I just want to refresh the news feed here. Any other questions? Fire them up in the chat room. I'll hang out for another couple minutes or so here. We got a game in about 40 minutes here, so I'm excited. About 50 minutes, my bad. I'm just looking around from any other options in the news department here. Terry McLaurin practiced in full today, so it looks like he's on track. Rashad Perriman on the COVID list. And yeah, the Giants reporting that Daniel Jones not expected to play this season. That's not really a surprise for me. Adam Thielen listed as questionable. He hasn't practiced. They're saying that he can play. I wouldn't bank on him playing. And yeah, it's weird, but I kind of like it. I don't know who plays next week on Saturday. Isn't it? We only have some Saturday games next week too. Oh, we got Christmas games. It's Saturday's Christmas next week. So the Browns at the Packers. I'll actually be attending that game. And then you have the Colts and the Arizona Cardinals later that night. So back-to-back Saturday games for the Colts. That's interesting. And yeah, no problem. I hope we got some right. But from what it sounds like, you guys gave me a lot of really good options. It's like some of these questions, like I'm having a tough time deciding on who to use. So like, you guys do have good options here. My advice always will be trust your gut, even if I say something and it doesn't sound right to you. Always trust your gut. I don't want to force you guys into making a decision that doesn't sit well with you. So I appreciate you guys hanging out with me. I'm going to get out of here for tonight. Good luck. Enjoy the game. Get your popcorn ready. And I don't know. Have a good rest of your night, guys. Good luck. We'll see you later. Peace.